Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can see in the picture today, let's start the story of What If Issei Becomes Saiyan has a massive harem part 2. Before we start, please go support DeltaPyrusDragonoid for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Issei is a male in this story. Dark 2, Hikasian vs. Akumashin. Nobody could believe what they saw. Goku's brother became a Super Saiyan god and even made him evolve using the words demon god so that his appearance changed. Vegeta. Am I dreaming? He asked while watching the fight between gods. Goku? No, this is really happening, Goku said as he watched how his brother and Beerus collided forearms, generating a wave of wind. Vegeta. Damn, now it turns out that I have someone else ahead of me, he thought with anger. In the fight, Beerus? You're not doing bad at all, boy, he said while he kicked Issei's right side, which he blocked with his right leg. Tell me, how does it feel to be a god? He asked as he deflected a direct from Issei. Issei? It feels incredible. There is no way to describe this feeling, he said while he looked at his hands. Beerus. I understand you. I felt that way too when I became a god. Issei, without saying anything, threw a Kyball at him that the god did not lock, creating a smokescreen. Beerus, seriously, he said with disappointment. A ball of Kai. Surely you can do something better, he said challengingly, so that when the smoke cleared, the Hikashin could be seen without any scratches, but he did not realize that Goku's brother, preparing a sphere of blue energy that he concentrated in his two hands, but the spectators, Crayon. That's it, he said impressed. Paim Senin. There is no doubt, said the old man, also impressed, to look at Goku, who was looking at his brother with a smile. There is no doubt that he is your brother, Goku. None, he said, happy to see the technique he was going to use. In the fight, he shouted so that the blue sphere began to compress, increasing its density. Issei shouted again to launch a powerful wave of white-blue Kai towards Beerus, but he launched his own purple wave, which collided with Issei's technique, generating a large shock wave, which made the sea tremble, shaking the waves and the ship. Beerus, that's all, he said with emotion. Never underestimate the power of the gods. Haya, the Haitian shouted, so that his wave began to gain ground. Issei increased the power of his attack, but even so, it was difficult for him to match the attack of the god Beerus, so then something occurred to him. Issei. Drake. How about demonstrating your power to Beerus-sama? He said from his mind to his partner, Drake. That's what you speak, buddy, he said in Issei's mind, so that the boosted gear materialized, impressing Beerus and Whis, and leaving the Z fighters in doubt. Let's show him that he doesn't undervalue the power of the dragons, said the Welsh dragon, ecstatic about the fight. Boost, 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 explosion. Drake's voice resonated throughout the sky, so that Issei's Kamehameha increased in power, and his color changed to a red-white color with green lightning. Issei. This is the power of the Red Emperor Dragon, he said. Using his Kai combined with Drake's boost Red Dragon Kamehameha, he shouted for his attack to surpass Beerus's, generating a powerful explosion, so that Issei lost his demon god form and gasped from exhaustion. When the cloud of smoke dissipated, Beerus was seen with scratches and a cut on his cheek from which blood was coming out. Issei, it seems that I have managed to hurt you, he said with a smile to begin to fall from the sky so that Beerus could grab his hand. Beerus, you are really powerful, Sekiryuutei, you managed to hurt me, something that only my master has managed to do, he said to land on the yacht, dropping Issei, who was very exhausted. Be proud. You have managed to make a god of destruction bleed, he said to get serious, and now I will keep my promise, he said to generate a ball of Kai in his left hand to destroy this earth. I spoke so that all the Z warriors were on guard, except Goku and Issei, who barely got up for the Hikashin to launch the Kai sphere, which to everyone's surprise deviated towards the sky. When everyone looked at Beerus, it was seen that he was asleep standing up, leaving everyone with a surprised look on their faces. Goku? It is Goku, said in between. Issei? That's it, Roki finished his brother's sentence so that Whis would look at Beerus. Whis, it seems like he's a little tired, he said with a smile. It seems that the 2 fights have left him without strength. He said with a whiff, it's normal. He spends the whole day eating, sleeping, and watching anime, so using all his power without having used it for so long has left him exhausted, he said, so that with his staff, he created a field of green light that surrounded him and Beerus. Issei, along with his brother, smiled when they saw the Hakation's hoax that no one noticed. Whis. When he wakes up he will have forgotten to destroy this earth. Alma. Are you sure? I asked the assistant of the god Beerus. Who knows? He said, raising his shoulders so that Bulma could try to answer him, but before he passed, Beerus said something in his sleep. Beerus. Pudding, he said in his dream world, if he remembers, I recommend that you give him pudding, Bulma. If you really want, I will fill a pool for you if necessary, he said with a smile. Whis looked at Beerus who was drooling, and then looked at the 2 Saiyan brothers. Whis. Goku Issei, he said so that those mentioned could look at him. I thank you for having entertained him. I thank you with all my heart, and I will reward you richly, Oku? No need, he said, scratching the back of his neck. I say. We were able to fight against a god. For us it is more than enough, Whis. Without further ado, I say goodbye, he said, so that his scepter hit the ground and a light took them to the sky. Scene change. Space. Whis. Beerus-sama, you can stop pretending to be asleep, he said while watching Beerus snoring. He even made a bubble with his nose. How disgusting, he spoke so Beerus would wake up. Beerus? Why don't you believe me, Whis? He was sleeping, said the Wisconsin. Sure, he said with a voice of I don't believe it, Eris. That Earth is a very particular planet. It even changed the science, he said while remembering his fights, to focus on his says. But the last one I fought with, he said while the wound on his cheek regenerated, not until leave a scar I managed to use 80% of my total power. I spoke to make a smile, perhaps. Kaioshin was right to give that sacred gear to that young Saiyan, Whis. The young Sekiryuutei, who has managed to hurt a superior god, he said with a smile, perhaps in the future, he will become a worthy successor to you, Beerus-sama, he said jokingly, hoping to anger the god, but never I hope what he said, Beerus. You may be right, Whis, he said, leaving his assistant amazed. Scene change. Another world, Edo. This Goku will never cease to surprise me, said the man with antennas. He and his brother have managed to become friends with the god Beerus. Ironies of life, I suppose, he said, looking at the pink sky. Even though he is a warrior who likes to fight alone, his number of friends does not stop growing. He said to focus his eyes on Issei Sekiryuutei, who has been able to face Beerus with almost all his power. Yeah. We will surely give him a heart attack. He said to start laughing. Scene change? Yacht. Goku, along with Issei, were literally devouring the yacht's food, leaving a pile of plates piled on their sides. Issei, who was about to take the plate of bird legs, was snatched away by his brother. Issei. Hey Nikki, share a little, he said with clear annoyance towards his brother. Doku, lo siento, perhaps I'm hungry, he said while chewing a piece of meat. Translation: I'm sorry, but I'm hungry. I say. Don't talk with your mouth full, he said while picking up a bowl of ramen to inhale the noodles. Piccolo? These 2 really are family, he said with a drop of sweat on the back of his neck when he saw the plates stacked behind him. Bulma? How horrible. My birthday party went to hell, he said with regret. Act as if this didn't happen, just as forget that I have had a birthday. As Bulma said that, Gaijin stood next to his say. Gohan? Nice to meet you, Aji-san, he said as he stretched out his hand so that Issei would stop eating and look at him to hold his hand. Issei? I say the same way, one, he said, and then looked at the copy of his brother in small form. You are also my nephew, right? He said, looking at the boy who was behind Gaijin. Don't be shy and come say hello to your uncle, he said, so that Gohan would come up and give him a hug. Wow, I didn't think you were so affectionate, he said while looking at Gohan. Then he vegetated. He approached Issei and asked him the question. Issei. Tell me, Keel, what was that you had in your left hand? He said, intrigued and with a sharp look. Issei then stopped eating, as did Goku, who also wanted to know that. Issei. I see that I don't have to hide it, he said to Sai, in order to begin to explain everything he experienced. except for the part in which he was a pervert. Odin? Seriously, you have a seal dragon, he said with stars in his eyes, so that his Issei could materialize the boosted gear. It's amazing, he said while touching his forearm. Greg? And so much so, child, the voice of the dragon resounded, making the gems shine, surprising everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Dreg. I am the Welsh dragon, the Red Emperor dragon, he said with pride in his words. Oku? And how did you become God, Issei? When doing the ritual, I absorbed part of your divine Kai, so that with the help of Dreg, I could assimilate it. And before you ask, I speak, interrupting Vegeta, who is going to ask him something else. The other way is the combination of my demonic energy with divine Kai, he said, leaving everyone impressed by the way. Aniki, can you teach me that teleportation technique, Goku? Sure, but why? Issei, isn't it obvious? I asked his brother. I want to return to my country, but with that technique, I will be able to go visit you. Goku smiled at that, and they continued eating, along with Vegeta, who was bitten by the bug. 1. In Japanese means nephew. Clarifications. 1. Issei is not as strong as Goku or Vegeta. He was able to fight Beerus with his new form, though the demon god form will have side effects, such as the selfish doctrine. 3. Issei's power based on Kai is on par with Goku in the Freezer saga. Arc 2. Side effect. After eating all the food on the yacht, Issei spent the entire night training with Goku to learn teleportation. In order for him to be able to dominate her, he had to learn to sense Kai, which did not cost him much, thanks to the training of his brother, along with the fact that he was able to improve his senses to sense any energy, no matter how small. I'm Skip. The next morning, Issei was in the Capsule Corporation, preparing to leave, along with all the Z fighters who showed up to say goodbye to him. Krillin, thank you for helping us in the fight, Issei, said the monk with air. Issei, there's no need to give them. Goku told me that you, along with the one you call Kame Sennin, were very important to him. I really thank you for taking care of my brother, he said. Bow to remember something, Vegeta-san, Aniki, he said, so that the two pure-blood Saiyans looked at him. When we meet again, I hope to have a good fight against you, he said with a challenging smile, which surprised both of them and then caught the same smile. Smile, Vegeta? Rest assured, Keel. Doku? It will be a memorable fight. Issei said goodbye to everyone and put the index and middle fingers of his left hand on his forehead to find Ria's energy so that after a few minutes he would find it. Essie. See you? He said to disappear. Time skip. Night scene change. Earth, DXD. Rias was in the bed in Essie's room since according to her, she has a rare disease that if she did not sleep with ice, she would die, and to reduce the symptoms of the disease she had to sleep in her room. Rias. Eyes, she said in a whisper with her eyes closed. Elmi said a voice that she knew very well so that Rias opened her eyes to see her pawn, who had changed. His hair was now jet black like his eyes, he was wearing a colored martial arts guy. Red like his brother's, except that the inner shirt was green, like his wristbands and belt, his shoes were dark green, with a yellow line down the middle, and it was noticeable that his complexion had already changed. Who was now taller and had marked muscles just like Goku in the end of DP Butcher. I asked her mistress, who was blushing. Rias woke up from the trance to hug her servant. Rias. I sell, as she said as she tightened her hug, have you been okay without me? She said to speak again without letting the black-haired man say anything. Not me. I have a rare disease that is, if I don't sleep with ice, I'll die, she said, making Essie sweat. Essie? But you... It was only one, she said. Rias? For me it was like a year, she said, exaggerating things, making the black-haired man's sweat drop bigger. Tell me, what happened in the end? He asked his pawn. An explanation later, Rias. Let's see if I understood, she said, closing her eyes and putting her fingers on his temples. You say that your brother and you, together with 4 other people, created a divinity of your race? Essie nodded. Rias. Which your brother used to confront a god of destruction, giving him a good fight? Essie nodded again. Rias. But he was defeated, so you also became a god and even made him more powerful. Issei. Exactly, Rias. You're joking, right? She said, almost laughing, so that Issei asked her to follow him, to get up from her, and immediately Issei grabbed her waist, making her blush, and began to float through the air to fly away towards the forest. Scene change. Qua forest. Issei stopped in a clearing in the wooded area to land and release Rias. Issei, now I will show you the Super Saiyan God, he said, so that he could close his eyes and make Rias wonder what he was doing, so that the black-haired man would be enveloped in a burning aura, he shouted, so that his energy would stop being felt, and his hair turned red as did his eyes. This is the Super Saiyan God, he said, opening his eyes to see Rias gaping. Rias? How come I can't feel your energy? She said, shocked by the pressure that came from Issei's aura. Issei? Non-divine beings cannot feel the power of the gods, he said with a smile that made the Grimmery heiress blush. Now you will see my maximum transformation, he said, so that the upper part of his guy was torn and some symbols appeared. His hair stood up slightly and his eyes turned a light blue demon god. I shouted to increase her aura, which went from fire to a pure reddish one, so that Ria's blush would increase. Rias. It's destiny, our auras are the same color, she thought with joy, to see that the red deed began to shine brighter, so that the red light enveloped him and his silhouette began to diminish, so that then the light would dissipate, and Issei would be seen. Child. Issei? What the hell? He said excitedly, seeing that he had the appearance of a child. Greg. The red dragon laughed inside the chestnut's mind. Look at you, you're a child again, he said between laughs. Issei. It's not funny, Greg, Issei shouted. But what happened to me? He asked himself when he saw himself again at 12 years old. Dreg. I think I have a theory, Dreg said to get the brunette's attention by combining divine chi with demonic energy. It made your demonic body, which is vulnerable to positive energy, not tolerate stress, and somehow, your body will seal that energy. As a result, you look like a child again, he said, making the black-haired man nervous. Issei. Don't you have a way to solve it? He said, very worried. But how can I explain that I have become a child, Greg? None, he said, but I think you should worry about what's coming to you, he said between laughs to cut off the communication. Sigh, what did he mean by that, he said with his eyes closed so that when he opened them, he saw his mistress with a big blush and a trickle of blood coming out of her nose, which made him have a chill down the spine. Boo, but you, he said, scared by Rias' gaze, who reacted by hugging him and putting his face between her breasts. Rias? My eyes, you are so cute, she said, blushing with a smile. It makes me want to have you in my room, hugging you like a stuffed animal, she said as she tightened her hug. No puito raspar, he said while slapping her arms so that Rias would relax the hug but without letting go, making him nervous because of the look he had, since he had that look when he spied on the kendo club. Trying to ignore Rias' look, he explained to her what happened to him. Rias? Do you mean that by using divine energy your body became that of a child again? I say. Exactly. He said to try to free himself from Rias' embrace, but he wouldn't let himself in. But could you let me go? Rias? Nope. He said while smiling. You're too cuddly to let yourself escape, he said, so that a magic circle formed at his feet. Let's go home. Your one ES and is going to take good care of you, he said with a perverted smile. Greg. Partner, now you will experience the step you will take to become a man, he said, so that Issei began to cry internally. Where are my popcorn? I asked for the communication to be cut off, Issei. I'm afraid that was what he thought when he disappeared into the magic circle with Rias. Warning notice. This is a warning to all those who make high school DxD fanfics. Silence this user, AF review. He is the well-known and infamous anti-fanboy, the troll of DxD fanfics. As some of you have seen in the comments of this story, he is a fool who only likes to annoy people who have imagination and right to express it. I ask you to ignore him since he likes the suffering of writers, but it's over. And if the anti-fanboy is reading this, let him know. I don't care what I say, but thanks to your comments, many fanfics that I liked have been abandoned. I hope you're happy, but I'm telling you this very clearly. You are a bitter bully who has no imagination and only annoys people that if he has it. Bark 2, a show of love. 2 days have passed since the Divine Kai incident. Issei was able to return to his usual appearance, but he was left with an after effect of that rejuvenated stage. Flashback. After they were teleported to the house, Rias, along with Asia, did not stop hugging Chibi Issei, who was red as a tomato. Why? Simple, her face was between Ria and Asia's breasts. Issei. But you, Asia, please let me go, she said in a plea for those mentioned to ignore her plea. Rias? You're too adorable, he said, pulling him away from Asia. Asia? But you, San, it's unfair. I want to hug him too, she said to start struggling, trying to hug the black-haired man, whose self-control was going down the drain each time, so that Asia then said the bomb something hard is touching me the leg, he said innocently, so that Issei would let go with his face red as a tomato and go to his room, hiding his crotch. And flashback, Issei sighed as he remembered that event to leave his room towards the shower to freshen up, not knowing that Rias was following him with a perverted smile. Scene change. House shower. Issei was throwing a bucket of water over his head so that with his eyes closed, he would look for the sponge, so that boing. Issei? Are you? He said incredulously. What is this? He said, squeezing the strange object that was soft and cuddly so that he heard something that turned him red. A voice moaned, so that the black-haired man opened his eyes and saw Issei. Boo-boo-boo-choo, he stammered, seeing his mistress, in all her splendor, with nothing to cover her. Why are you naked? He asked, avoiding looking at the body of the grimy heiress, who only smiled sensually, which excited Issei, but she was able to control herself. Rias, I also wanted to take a shower, she said as she approached the young Saiyan, who was having a hard time holding back her excitement, seeing what is said to be a goddess in a physical body. I saw you going, and I couldn't hold back the desire to take a bath with you, she said. Her 2 centimeters from his face, can I? She said with a tender face. That was the last straw for the Saiyan self-control, who, with ferocity, claimed the lips of the Re-did, who was surprised by the action, and then let herself go. Lemon skipped, please consider reading it on website. Dark 2, back to academia. Time skip. Next, tomorrow, Issei opened his eyes seeing that he was in his room, remembering the events that happened last night. Without being able to help it he blushed. Issei. Me and Rias, we did it, he thought with a smile, so that when he tried to get up he felt an extra weight on his chest, so that when he looked down, he couldn't help but blush, since Rias was sleeping, supporting her head on Issei's chest while she hugged him, totally naked. Issei brushed away a lock of hair that fell from her forehead, making the grimy heiress react, who was beginning to wake up. Is it already daytime? She said sleepily. I had a magnificent dream. I dreamed that Issei and I became one, she said, so that someone could caress her hair to see Issei. Issei. It wasn't a dream, she said with a smile, so that she started to cry. Rias, why are you crying? He said worried. Rias? I'm crying with happiness, she said with a radiant smile, because I finally gave myself to the man I love, she said, so that Issei gave her a short kiss on the lips. Issei. I'm also happy to have given you my first time, Rias, he said with a smile that made her blush. I would like to stay like this a little longer, but we have to go to the academy, he said to get out of bed, followed by Rias, who they changed, so they felt a knock on the door. And Issei. Issei, are you dressed yet? Issei. Yes, Mom, let's go down now, she said, intriguing her mother because of her plural, so that when she opened the door, she would see her son with Rias, who was still changing. Issei. Sorry, she said, closing the door to go talk to Issei's father, leaving her son with a drop of sweat running down the back of her neck since she heard the voices of her parents, who were clearly happy. In your tone, scene change? Qua Academy entrance. Issei, along with Rias and Asia, were on their way to the academy. Asia had her cheeks swollen for a simple reason. Rias was very fond of the black-haired man since she had her arms intertwined with Issei's left arm. Upon entering the academy, the murmurs did not wait. On the boys' side, Student 1. Who is the one with Rias Anasama? She said with great jealousy. Student 2. I don't know, but we must give him a message, she said with a dark aura. On the girls' side, Student 1. Who is the one accompanying Rias Anasama? She said, jealous when she saw that the gremry was with a god in a human body. Student 2. Look at his physique, another woman said, drooling over Issei. Student 3. I wonder what he looks like without a shirt, she said with a shine of lust, so that the girls who accompanied her screamed with excitement. Issei only ignored the murderous instinct emanating from the males of the academy, and the looks of desire from the females to feel that Rias tightened her grip, making Issei notice the bust of her master, which made him blush. Rias, I'm sorry, but he's mine, she thought with a victorious smile. Upon reaching the entrance, Rias said goodbye to Issei with a kiss on the lips, leaving everyone in stone to leave with a radiant smile towards her class, as did Issei and Asia, who was pouting, who he only looked more adorable in everyone's eyes. Scene change. Class 2B. Issei sat at her desk before everyone's look of intrigue so that the teacher could enter and start taking roll until he arrived. Teacher? Hi do Issei, said the teacher, thinking that he was absent again. Issei. Present, he said with a smile, so that everyone, including the teacher, was shocked to see such a change in the perverted beast. Everyone wanted to ask him questions, but the teacher put order in the class, silencing everyone so as to begin with the lessons. Time skip. Break. Issei, I just sigh when I remember what happened just to start the break. Flashback. When the bell rang that signaled lunchtime, all of Issei's classmates stood in front of him to begin the interrogation. Student 1. Are you really high, do Issei? Asked the student Issei. Yes, she said with a smile nailed to her brothers, making the females blush and making the males jealous. Student 2. How come you changed so much? Issei. It's something difficult to explain, he said, scratching the back of his neck to summarize. I am adopted. This is the hair color of my biological parents. I found out about my biological family through my older brother, he said, so that the whole class will remain silent. My brother is a martial arts fighter, so I trained with him, then my physique changed. Student 3. But that's impossible, you only left for a week, a change like yours would take months, Issei. I will only say 2 words, he said to turn blue Spartan training, he said, pretending to have a shiver when remembering so that everyone present would wonder what the hell did he do. Issei stood up and walked away from the group so that his 2 perverted friends could ask him. Matsuda? Hey Issei, let's go to my house to play with some marriages, he said with a face of pure perversion so that Motohama nodded with the same face, making the women look at them badly. Issei. Step, he said dryly so that the class stood still. My stage of perversion is over, he finished speaking to leave the classroom. Then flashback. Issei. Yes, they have recovered quickly, he said, looking at Matsuda and Motohama, fleeing from the kendo club to see Rias coming to him. Rias, he said with a smile so that she hugged him lovingly, leaving all the men who were jealous. Emanating killer instinct, Rias? Issei said, leaving all those who did not know the black-haired man's identity like statues, and then they began to remember what happened in the morning, a clip coming to their minds. Everyone? The perverted beast and Rias Anasama are dating, thought all the men, jealous of Issei, while some women were also jealous, but of Rias. Time skip. End of class. Issei, accompanied by Asia, went to the club building. Issei. The news has spread like wildfire, he said, somewhat annoyed since many of his classmates left him notes of death threats as well as love letters from his classmates. Asia was just upset since her cheeks were swollen. Asia? Issei Senbaka, she thought somewhat angrily, to get to the old building where they entered the club to meet the student council. Issei? He said incredulously. Dark 2 ball tournament. Issei. Sounda Kaiju, what are you doing here? He asked politely and with some curiosity, so that a student with blonde hair that reached down to her lower back, gray eyes, who was wearing the female uniform of the academy minus the shoulder cape, began to speak. Rias senpai, the girl asked Rias, didn't you say anything about us to hide Yukin? I asked him, somewhat surprised. Sauna? Saki, it can't be helped, she said, looking seriously at Issei. Remember that we should not intervene in Rias' demonic affairs. Besides, Hideout-kun recently became a demon, so it was to be expected that he didn't know about us. Issei. Well, my idea was correct, he said, capturing the interest of the student council. I already figured that you were not human, because your energy is very similar to Puchu's. Thank you for clarifying my doubt, he said with the smile of the family they are, which made the student council blush slightly, something that did not go unnoticed by the Gremory group. Rias cleared her throat to attract everyone's attention so that Okino could explain to Issei and Asia from the student council. Okino. Sinesha Taori-sama's real name is Sona Citri. She is heir to the Citri clan, a family of high-class demons. Sona. Like the Phoenix and Gremory clans, the Citri clan is one of the 72 clans of the underworld. I speak seriously. We divide the city guard, while at night Rias is in charge of patrols. We are in charge of looking after the Koi Academy during the day, he spoke, adjusting his glasses. The girl next to me is the secretary of the student council, Saki Genshiro, Issei. So the student council members are your servants? I asked Sona, who nodded her head to focus her gaze on Saki. Still, I'm glad there's another pawn in second year. Saki, although it hurts my pride to be compared to a pervert like you, she said dryly, so that an anime-style vein formed on Issei's forehead. Trying to calm down, he tried to count to 10 while having a forced smile, only for him to the pawn. Citri added more fuel to the fire. She may be a demon recently, but she spent 4 pawns so she wouldn't lose against someone as weak as you. She spoke with arrogance. Sona only wrinkled her forehead so that when she was going to scold their pawn, they felt a great murderous instinct that made breathing a great effort. They focused their sight on the source of the instinct to see how Issei had his eyes covered by his hair, so that when he raised his face, they would notice that he had very pronounced whisker marks on his cheeks, and his eyes, previously black, turned red with slanted pupils, which were intimidating just by posing in front of you, to say. It would be better if you were careful with what you say, Saki-chan, because you could provoke a monster, she said with an intimidating voice, which only made her nod in fear. There he is. Ice. I called the attention of her farmhand and her boyfriend. What's wrong with your eyes, and why do you have those whisker marks on your cheeks? I say. Eyes? He repeated, confused, so that the boosted gear drag appeared. Is something wrong? He asked his partner Dreg. Partner, I forgot to tell you that when you faced Spyrazima, you broke the second seal, which contained the power of other beams of incomparable power. Like me, he spoke, ringing gasps to everyone present, but more so to say now they are themselves sealed in the boosted gear. He finished speaking, so that the boosted gear changed color, becoming orange, but black details, and the gem on the back of the hand was blood red. So you are our new container? Said a deep voice through the gem of the glove. You promised more than my former container when I first met you. Let me introduce myself. I am Kurama, the most powerful Kyuubi no Yoko on the planet Nishu. Sona. Are you from another planet? She asked, very impressed, while I followed her. Her eyes were wide open. Kurama? That's right, young lady. I and my brothers come from the planet Nishu, a planet somewhat less developed than yours, where the reigning force is the ninjas, men and women capable of using chakra. I am an entity of pure chakra, known along with my brothers as the 9 Bijas, he said, beginning to explain the story of how he was born and how the humans of his world enslaved his brothers and him to turn them into weapons at the service of each of the 5 shinobi villages, and finishing. My previous container, Naruto Uzumaki, the Nanodame Hokage of Konoha, was defeated and killed by Kawaki along with all of Konoha until his son, Boruto, confronted him, sacrificing his life to defeat him. After that fight, the planet Nishu, it was destroyed by my father's enemy race, the Saiyans, he said with some sadness, so that a lump formed in Issei's throat, so that before he spoke Kurama interrupted him. Don't worry, Issei, I know that you are a Saiyan, but I do not see or feel the same emotions as your peers apart from your fighting instinct, he spoke, calming his Jinchuriki. Issei, thank you Kurama, I am very sorry for what my fellow humans did to your planet. Now I hope you are happy here on Earth. Besides, I have a small project that you will surely like, he said gratefully to Kurama, and thought about the last thing with a smile. Then the boosted gear returned to its original color and dematerialized from the black-haired man's arm, who everyone stared at. Issei, what's wrong? I asked curiously, only for Saki to answer, almost shouting. Saki? Are you an alien? I asked, almost shouting. Issei, you're going to make me deaf, Saki-chan, he said, so that Saki blushed, embarrassed. If you want to know the answer. Here you go, He said to take out a box that then the hologram materialized with a message from Issei's biological parents, too. At the end of the message everyone was with their mouths wide open. Then Sona regained her composure and put on her serious face. Sona. By the way, Rias, are you planning to go to the familiar forest? I asked Rias seriously. Rias? I understand that if you ask me it is because you also want to go, right? She replied to her friend, Sona. It's a problem since the Master of Familiars only accepts an ability for a full moon, he said, adjusting his glasses so that the light bulb would illuminate. What do you think of a ball tournament, for the right to go to the forest? Rias. Great for me, she said with a confident smile. Scene change. Core Academy, tennis court, Issei. You can laugh, Issei shouted. Come on Akino-san, I know you can win, I shout, encouraging his girlfriend and Rias' best friend, Saki. Kaichu Fukuikechi, you are the best, you can't lose, shouted, waving a flag with the words Student Council written on it. Rias? Akino, I call her friend Ice is cheering us on so we shouldn't lose. Akino? Hi. But you, she responded with a smile so that Ria, Sona's second bishop, would blow the whistle to start the tennis match. Rias. Let's start, Sona. She told him with a smile full of determination. Sona, go ahead. I spoke so that Rias would throw the ball. For a while they played tennis normally, while the students looked with looks full of perversion at the four women on the court, perverted boys. Akino anathema, the boys said, while Akino's skirt lifted when she received a ball. All the girls looked in admiration at four of the most beautiful and popular women in school. Sona, with this, we will win a point, I speak, smiling, to charge the ball with demonic energy. Chitori spin ball shout to hit the ball that went at high speed towards the opposite field. Rias. That's nothing, he said with confidence. Here's my Gremry counter style. I talk to hit the ball, but before I touch the racket, the ball made a turn to hit the ground. Yeah. 15:30, I inform everyone of the result, I say. That wasn't cheating. I asked the Princess of Kwasaki. That's my kaiju, she said, gloating. You mean? Technically yes, she said, so that the students would say. Student 1. It's a demonic ball, she said, so that everyone cheered. Yumi? Everyone thinks it's a demonic ball, she said with a forced smile and a drop of an eye in sweat. Kaneko? I don't know if it's a good idea for them to use their demonic magic, she said in a monotone voice. Sona is not bad, if not, you would not be my rival, however I will not let me win, she said, to throw a ball with demonic energy, which was answered by Sona in the same way, being followed by her queens. I'm skip, Yumi. In the end it was a tie, she said, while Kaneko held the two rackets that were broken, so Buchu and Akino are meeting with Sona Kaiju to decide the game to break the tie. I spoke for Rias to enter accompanied by Akino. Issei. Have you already decided? He asked her girlfriend so that she agreed. Rias. It will be a dodgeball match. It will be tomorrow night, so get ready, let's give our maximum effort. Everyone. Rias. Hi, I'm Skip. The next day, night gym. Rias. The other group has too many people, so those who were left over were put as referees. I see. I think it was since elementary school that I didn't play dodgeball, Issei said while stretching. He was wearing blue sport shoes, long black sweatpants, and a white tank top that was tight to his torso and showed his arms. Toned, as are his pecs and abs, through the shirt. All the women in the Gremry and Citri group occasionally took a look at her body. Burl, she said, drawing everyone's attention. My face is here, she said, pointing to her head so that they all blushed in embarrassment so that Momo could see her. By accident he dropped a bottle of water, which left all the liquid on his say, making his shirt stick to his body, highlighting his physique, trained in the hyperbolic time chamber, making everyone have a trickle of blood running down their noses, and his crazy mind, making them have fantasies about Issei while doing things not suitable for children. Making everyone have a trickle of blood running down their noses, and his crazy mind, making them have fantasies about Issei while doing things not suitable for children. After drying her shirt, she started the dodgeball game where the ball was in the hands of the Citri clan. Then Tsubasa threw the ball, powered by the strength of his evil piece the tower, towards Kaneko, who did not see the ball, which grazed her clothes. Momo? Kaneko eliminated, she said, raising a flag. Issei saw that his cowhide shirt was torn, so he took off his shirt and forcibly put it on. The poor thing had a strong blush, feeling Issei's warmth on her shirt, while all the others devoured him with their hands. Look! Discarding all immoral thoughts, Tsubaki threw the ball to Rias, who stopped it, but the force was so great that it generated a wave of wind that tripped her shirt. Sona. I'm surprised you blocked Tsubaki's launch. Rias, who the hell do you think I am? I asked her with emotion to throw the ball, which was powered by a magic circle, which ended up Otomo, a knight from Sona, who caused her clothes to burn. Rias saw the opportunity and threw a ball towards the black-haired man, who blocked it without even looking. Issei, you'll have to do better, darling, if you want to surprise me, he said gallantly, so that Ria blushed violently. It's my turn, he said, to put the ball on the tip of his leg and raise it so that he can hit it with the tip of his shoe, and outside absorbing black flames, lethal projectiles, she shouted to bend her arm and lower it while they were in front of him, making the ball go at great speed towards the nobility of Sona, hitting them all and falling on the ground. The goddess of victory has smiled on us, she said with a smile. Momo. All members of Sona's team eliminated. Gremory family winners, she stammered, impressed at that act, so that Issei came over to help those who were knocked down by her shot. Issei, I'm sorry, Kaiju, maybe I'm a little excited, she said with some nervousness, so that Sona denied it with a smile. Sona? It's okay, Ice-kun, she said, surprising Tsubaki and Rias with what she said. Issei. So Ice-kun, she said mischievously, making Sona go from serious to tomato red. You know, I think you are more beautiful when you smile, she said with the smile of her brother, so that Rias grabbed her cheek. Ayubichu, do well, she said while she cried comically, while Rias puffed out her cheeks to release Issei, who only saw Ria's reaction with a smile. Don't tell me that my beautiful girlfriend is jealous, she said, so that there was enormous silence in the room. What do you want me to do to earn your forgiveness? I asked Rias, who whispers in a low voice, can I hear you? I spoke while he had a funny smile on his face. Rias, give me a kiss, she asked him, blushing so that Issei grabbed her waist and gave her a tender kiss in front of everyone. Sona. Lucky, she thought with some jealousy, like all of her entourage. You me? It's not fair, she thought jealously. Asia. Mao Issei Sino Baka, she said in her head, while she puffed out her cheeks. Aikino. I wouldn't have lost, she said, the latter with a smile full of confidence. Rias, and neither do I, she said with the same smile as Sona. I cannot allow my friend and rival to defeat me in a rating game. I will look forward to our first meeting with excitement. Sona? I say the same, he said to leave with his nobility. Rias, well, my dear servants, we have earned the right to go to the Forest of Familiars, so prepare yourselves. We will go to look for the future familiars of Ice and Asia. Rias? Hi. Arc 2, The Forest of Familiars. Time skip. Next day night, C.I.O. Rias? Well, my dear servants, today we will go to get Issei and Asia's relatives. I speak to receive the affirmative response from him, O Rias? If you are so kind, he said to his queen. O Rias? Hi, but you, she answered, the heiress of the Gremory clan, to form a teleportation circle, which took them from the place. Scene change. Family forest. In a clearing in the familiar forest, the circle with the symbol of the Gremory clan appeared, which materialized the members of the Gremory nobility. Issei, is this the place? He asked the heir, to feel a demonic energy, which made him tense. Asia? This place seems very gloomy, I'm afraid, he told her, snuggling up to Issei's back. Atoll, shouted a voice that made Asia get scared and hugged the black-haired man tightly, who squinted and tried to feel the energy of the owner of the voice to look up and find a man who dressed like a 10-year-old boy. Dark-colored shorts, a white tank top, and tied to his waist was a blue sweatshirt. On his back, he had a red backpack full of pockets, and on his head he wore a cap turned inside out, in which we had locks of hair. Hair coming out of the hole in the cap's adjustment strap. Issei. Who are you? Issei asked, putting himself in the turtle-style posture. Answerer, I will beat you to death. Zataji. Calm down, young Sekiryuutei. I am not hostile, he said, raising his hands in a sign of peace. My name is Zataji from the city of Madara. I am a demon in training, and my dream is to be a master of familiars. The man in clothes introduced himself as a child, Issei. He's in a midlife crisis, he thought with a drop of sweat on the back of his neck, and then the boosted gear appeared, in orange. Kurama. Maybe I should visit that city and leave it in ruins. Kurama spoke with a voice full of malice, which caused doubts in his container. Issei. Hello Zataji-san, we have come because my 2 new servants need some relatives. Zataji. Well, tell me, what kind of family member would you like? I ask. Issei in Asia a strong one? Poisonous? Fast? I say. What is the strongest familiar? Zataji-san, I ask with an excited smile. Zataji. The strongest familiar is the only female of the Dragon Kings, Tiamat, the Karma Dragon Queen of Chaos. She is also the strongest of the 5 kings. She is on par with the Yanai Mass, I explain, just so that the boosted gear appeared. Greg. No! Oh, 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 oh. Oh, but what's wrong with you, partner? I asked the soul of the Red Emperor, Greg. She hates me to death. Every time she senses my power, she comes and kills my current wielder, Issei. And why does she hate you? Greg. That's the thing, I have no idea. I'm talking, so that in the boosted gear and outside, everyone except Greg would fall to the ground with their backs to the enemy. Issei was about to speak so that he felt a whisper in the air, which said, "Follow the birds." Then Issei looked up to see that a flock of birds was standing above the black-haired man. Following his instinct, he took flight without warning. Use your wings and go stealthily. Rias, I think it's better, he said to his boyfriend. To cut off the dialogue when he saw that he had left the sea, he shouted with rage. Moments before with Issei followed the birds that were guiding him somewhere, so that there he is. Issei. He heard the scream of her girlfriend who seemed angry. Issei. From Lost to the River, she said resignedly to see that the birds increased the speed of her flight, which also increased her speed. Scene change. Forest clearing. Issei began to hear the whisper again, which this time told him. Look for the double trunk tree, which when he looked closely there were 2 large birch trees that were very close together. As he approached, he saw an inscription in a language that he could not understand, to which he thought that perhaps it was not a language of this planet. Then the whisper said, "Touch the inscription." Doing what he said, he touched the writing so that Issei's vision began to blink, and then everything turned black. Scene change. Unknown location. A young pure-blood Saiyan slowly opened his eyes and put his hand to his forehead. Issei. What happened? He said into the air, to realize that he was on a ground that was transparent. You have finally woken up. Young Saiyan said, a voice that resonated in his mind, to get up and put himself on guard. Don't be afraid. I don't want to hurt you. I just want to talk to you. The voice in Issei's head spoke so that in a golden glow, a portal opened from which a strange creature emerged. It looked like a cross between a horse and a deer without horns. It was white and black. It wore a golden ring in the middle of its body. Issei? Who are you? He said with caution, since he could not feel his power, which is why he thought that he was a god on par with Beerus. Arceus. I am the god who created this universe. My name is Arceus, he said through Issei's mind. Issei. And why do you want to talk to me, Arceus-sama? Arceus? You see, young man, my time of life is coming to an end, he said, impressing the black-haired man. A long time ago, on Earth, there were creatures of unimaginable power, the Pakaman, but because of the leader of an evil organization called the Team Rocket, who wanted to dominate the world using my children, created a virus that would make all the Pokemon loyal to him. But in an error in the DNA molecule of the formula, the virus killed all the Pokemon, which also made me affection to me since my bond with my children transferred the virus to me. That is why I have been waiting a long time using my power to delay my death until I find someone who would use my gift to bring my children to life. That's why I called you young Issei. I have been watching you since you were born, so I know that you will be capable of such a task, he said to Bao, leaving his left paw bent back and the right one stretched forward. Please, Issei, do fulfill the request of this old Pokemon, and revive my children, I beg, Issei. You saw impressed how the creator god of the universe begged for something, Issei. I will fulfill your request, Arceus-sama, but I will also add this, he said, drawing the attention of the aforementioned. You will also return to life, along with your children. It is a promise that I do not intend to break, he said, hitting his chest with his right hand, in the heart area. Arceus, thank you, he said with joy, so that 18 lights of different colors came out of his body, which surrounded his Essie, to hit him in the neck, forming a necklace with 18 stones of different colors. This is my own sacred gear, the life stones, the 14th Longinus. With them, you can use the powers of all the Pokemon, and when you reach the balance breaker, you can bring all my children back to life, he said, beginning to disappear into particles. I hope we meet again. Until then, hide you, Issei. My successor finished speaking to disappear, and the particles began to gather around Issei to emit a glow that blinded him. Scene change. Forest clearing. Linking, Essie saw that he was in the same place he was before, right in front of the tree, where the inscription that had now disappeared was. Essie. Has everything I've seen and heard been an illusion? He asked into the air to touch his neck, realizing that he had something on it, to notice that the life stones were there. I promise you, Arceus, you and your children will be together again. He spoke in his mind with determination, while he squeezed the necklace in his hand to realize that he knew the names of all the Pokemon that Arceus created. So, Asia Kyoya. Issei heard a scream from Asia and went to her direction, flying at high speed. Well, with those from the Cio. Zataji, look, he said, pointing to a tree where there was a small blue dragon with red eyes. That's a sprite dragon, a type of baby dragon that launches blue rays. Asia. How nice, she said with a smile. Yumi? This is a higher-ranking family member. Zataji, if any of you want to make him his family member, this is the time, since it will be very difficult when he is older. At the same moment that Asia was going to try to do it with her relative, a kind of green snot fell from the trees, right above the girls. Asia. Kyo, she screamed when she felt that her clothes were being dissolved. Rias, what is this thing? He asked, looking at the green mucus that dissolved his clothes. One fell on Yumi's face, right in the area of her eyes, next to which she was being held by green tentacles, which caressed her insensitive areas, just like Akino and Kaneko. Satoji, those are slimes. This is a peculiar subspecies since it dissolves the clothes with which it comes into contact, especially women's clothes, he said, bleeding from his nose, while he had another slime covering his eyes. An August of wind, a seal made an appearance so that the currents of air that kind of spread the slimes, which were on top of the girls. Seal. I felt that you were in danger, so she said, to receive a slap from Rias, reinforced with his power of destruction. What was that for? He asked while rubbing his head. Rias, HMPF, that was for leaving on your own, she said, puffing out her cheeks and looking away. Issei. Son, dear, she said with amusement. Rias, I am not son, dear, she screamed, red as a tomato, to start a one-sided argument, since Essie was not speaking or listening, so that another slime fell where Asia was, but before her underwear dissolved, a blue lightning bolt destroyed the slimes. Where did that lightning come from? I asked, to see the sprite dragon on Asia's shoulder. Asia? Have you saved me? She said, so that the dragon nodded his head to be hugged by the ex-nun, Tataji. From what I see, the sprite dragon has chosen you. These dragons only want their master to be pure of heart. Yumi? Maybe it's because she was a nun, Essie. So there is no one else with such purity of heart, he said with a smile. Asia? You tickle me, Rax-kun Essie? Rax? I asked, curious about the name. Asia? By the way, and I also put your name, she said, blushing and embarrassed. I hope you don't mind, Issei-san. Issei. I don't care about Asia, he said to stare at the blue dragon. I hope you take good care of Asia, he told the dragon, who only threw lightning at him, so that one of the gems on the necklace would shine yellow and absorb the lightning. Chatuji. Sprite dragons don't get along with other male dragons, so that reaction is normal, she said, so that the gem could finish absorbing the lightning. I say, dry eye, you get the end, the voice, which could be heard from the sky, where you could see a shadow in the sky, which began to descend. When it remained on the ground, you could see a western dragon, pale blue in color, with blue eyes. I finally find you, you damn coward, said the dragon with great anger to throw her fire breath towards Issei, making all the demons move away from her, except Issei, who received the fire at its full power. Girls, Issei-kun senpai-san, the girls shouted in unison to see how the flame began to diminish, watching how the black-haired man ate the flames. Tiamat, dragon slayer, she said, impressed by seeing a dragon hunter alive. I say, thank you for the food, she said with a mocking smile. Allow me to return the favor, she said with emotion to bumped fists, generating an orange magic circle where the center was the head of a dragon. Try this, I speak to puff out his cheeks. Karyu no Haku, he shouted for a dragon to appear on his back, then put his fists together and launched a powerful jet of fire in the direction of Tiamat. He used his wings to block the flare, creating a screen of smoke right where Tiamat was. Come on, I'm on, he shouted with emotion so that the smoke would dissipate, revealing the dragon where she had wounds on her wings. Tiamat? Damn you, Draig, the more damage you're going to do to me, he shouted with tears coming out of his blue eyes. Issei. I am not Drag. I am just his carrier, I tried to explain to Tiamat, who ignores what he said, to throw another flare at her. I see that I will have to beat you so that you understand, he said tiredly, to become amid a wide aura, and launched himself at Tiamat, who without hesitation took flight, followed by Issei, where they began to fight. With Rias and her nobility. Rias, am I dreaming? He asked into the air, seeing how her boyfriend and her pawn fought against Tiamat. Aikino? I would say no, but I spoke, looking at how Issei blocked a blow from Tiamat's tail to give him a right blow in the face. We knew he was powerful, but so much. Asia? Issei-san, be careful, she said with concern as she looked at the combat in the skies while she put her hands together in the form of a prayer. Back with Issei and Tiamat, Issei received a tackle from Tiamat that threw him against the ground, creating a large gap when he hit the ground. Issei? Prepare to die, Draig, he shouted, so that sparks of blue fire began to come out of his mouth while Issei left the crater. Issei? I'd shouted, rubbing his head. That hurt me. He spoke while he finished massaging his head to see that Tiamat was flying over him and preparing a breath attack. Dreg, we show that, he asked his dragon companion. Dreg, go ahead, partner, I encourage you to get the boosted gear on both arms. In its second form, Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker, Dreg shouted from his left arm so that a powerful column of fire surrounded Issei, or when it faded was Issei with the Issei. Let's get serious, Tiamat, he said, taking out a pair of wings from his back and rising into flight, staying in front of the Dragon Queen to do the technique he learned from his brother Goku Kamehameha. He said out loud, I'd better raise the level a little, he thought with emotion. K connects too, he shouted, so that the red aura he emitted increased exponentially, increasing the power of her attack so that it surpassed the attack of the Dragon Queen, who only closed her eyes waiting for its end without realizing that she was transported right where Ria's entourage was, causing the red lightning will pass by to collide with a distant mountain and generate an explosion worthy of an atomic bomb. Perhaps I have gone a little too far. He said this last thing, touching the back of his head and sticking out his tongue so that everyone, including Tiamat, fell into the air. And I'm style floor. I'm Skip. 2 minutes later, after checking that everyone was okay, Tiamat faced the black-haired man, who sharpened his gaze from him to the Dragon Queen. Tiamat? Because you saved me, if I tried to kill you, he said curiously. I say, I have never liked to kill, besides your problem is not with me, but with Dreg, he said, the boosted gear appearing on both arms. Dreg. Ho ho hello Tiamat, she said breathily so that she sharpened her gaze. Tiamat? Tell me, Dreg, he said seriously, something that scared the celestial dragon a little. Why didn't you come back? He said, bringing silence to Drake. You left me and didn't appear again, he said with tears threatening to come out of his eyes. You abandoned me to face the Albion fool, right? Issei? You're telling me that you killed all of Dreg's carriers because you were angry because he left you, he said, receiving a nod from the dragon. Dreg, how could you do this to her? Dreg, that's a lie, and besides I got away from her because she harassed me, he said with fear, drawing everyone's attention. After I defeated her, she hit me with a limpet. She followed me wherever I went. Plus, I had a wife, he said, so that everyone was surprised by what he said. Her name was Firiel, the dragon of nature. She was kind, warm, and very loving. We met when we were larvae. We were best friends at that time. When we grew up, I felt something for her, and by becoming a celestial dragon, I declared myself to her, who reciprocated my feelings. We got married and were expecting our first child, but one day, the biblical factions attacked us where I and Albion fought against them. But because of the white man, my wife died along with my son. That's how our fight started, where it was the saddest day of my life, the day I lost my family and fought against my brother, he said with great regret. Tiamat? Then you never accepted my love because you were married, she said, without being able to believe what she heard. Greg, that's right, she said sadly to vanish the gauntlets so that Tiamat would start to cry. Issei, hey, what's wrong? He said with concern when he saw the dragon crying. Tiamat? I will never find someone who loves me, she said between sobs, only to feel a warm hand wiping her tears. I will always be alone, Essie. I wouldn't be sure, he said with a warm smile. I think you just have to wait, because you will surely find your better half, someone who will love you until the end of his days, he said with a dazzling smile that made the dragon blush. Tiamat? Do you think so? I ask with hope. I say. I don't think so, I just know he said to go with his girlfriend. Goodbye, Tiamat. We will meet again, I promise. He said to go with an ability of Rias through a magic circle. Tiamat stayed there for a while so that a light surrounded her, revealing a beautiful woman with blue eyes and short dark blue hair, who she placed a hand at the level of her heart. Tiamat. What is this feeling that I feel right now? It is different from what I felt with Dreg, she thought, feeling the rapid beating of her heart. Carrier of Dreg. We will meet again, said the girl with a beautiful smile, to return to his dragon form and fly away from the place. Dark 2, Excalibur Part 1. 3 days have passed since the meeting in the Forest of Relatives, where she had an idea, thanks to the information that his brother gave her, which made Drake cry with joy. Flashback. Issei was training in his mind, being seen by his partner, Dreg, who was curious because Issei wanted to tell him something important. Dreg, partner, the Red Emperor spoke, making Issei stop training. What was it you wanted to tell me? Issei. Dreg, do you remember when I asked Nikki to teach me instant transmission? I asked the dragon, who nodded well while we were training. He told me that on his planet, there is a treasure called the Dragon Balls, which who gather all 7, you will be granted a wish. Dreg. What do you want to get at, partner? I asked Issei and she just smiled. Issei? Well, I had the idea of going to gather them and make a wish that would make you very happy, he said with a smile, which intrigued Greg. My wish will be for your wife, Ariel, and your son to come back to life, he said, leaving static. Drake? Do you mean that? I asked him while tears threatened to come out of his eyes. Essie. Besides, I have a project for you to be with her and your son, since I'm looking for a way to get you out of the boosted gear. Greg? Why are you doing this for my partner? I asked him while he cried with joy. For one reason only, he said, making Drake listen carefully, because you are my friend. Then flashback. After that talk, the black-haired man further studied all the information that was on the ship until he found a way to free his friend. Now Essie was waking up in his bed. Essie, yawn. I slept well today, said the brunette while stretching his arms so that, when trying to get up, he felt an extra weight on his torso, under his head, to find Rias asleep next to him, naked, holding her with tenderness and love. Rias, wake up, he told her while gently moving her. Rias? He said in his sleep. Ice, not so harsh, she said, making the black-haired man sweat a drop. Essie. I didn't think I would have to use that, but oh well, he thought, resigning himself. Rias, if you don't wake up, I won't kiss you. Good morning, he said, making his girlfriend wake up instantly without any sign of tired. Good morning, Rias, he said, giving her a kiss on the lips, which she reciprocated. Rias. Good morning, eyes, she spoke with a bright smile, which changed to a flirtatious one. We still have an hour to go, so why don't we stay here for a little while? She said, sitting on the Scion's pelvis. What do you say? Not, ah, sweetheart, he said with a seductive tone, which was turning on his Scion instincts. But before he could make her moan his name, the door opened, where his adoptive mother was. Issei's mother? Issei, are you awake? She spoke in between to realize that her and Ria's son were in a very compromising position. Take your time, he said, closing the door. Issei, I think I just had a déjà vu, he said with a drop on the back of his neck, listening to how his mother spoke to his father with a happy tone to look at the door, realizing that Asia was there, with her chubby cheeks. Kneeling. Hello, Asia. Good morning, she said with the smile of her biological family, which made her blush so that she shook her head, making her cheeks swollen again. Asia? But you, San, it's not fair, she said, pointing accusingly at the Grimmery heiress. I also want to be with Issei. San, she spoke with teary eyes, launching herself to hug Issei. Issei? Asia, I remind you that Ice is mine, she said, putting Issei's head between her breasts while Leia hugged her back, starting an argument in which Issei wisely did not participate. Issei. Can't this day start normally? She asked herself in her mind, only to hear the laughter of her companions sealed in the scene change. Dining room of the house. Essie. I can't stop repeating it, but your cooking is delicious, Rias said, the black-haired man, while he ate plate after plate, while Rias smiled lovingly at her boyfriend. Rias? Thank you, Ice, you telling me that makes me very happy. Asia, a little jealous of the interaction between the two of them, which she continued to increase when remembering how the two had hex, made her pinch the Saiyan's arm, which made her grimace when she felt the pain. I say. Why did you do that, Asia? He asked her, caressing the place where she received the pinch from the ex-nun so that she only made a pout and turned her head away, taking her gaze away from Issei's. Asia? Issei sent Baka, she thought with some jealousy. Izumi? I still can't believe that my son has a girlfriend like you, Rias-chan, said the mother with a smile. I hope it doesn't take long for you to give me and Gora some beautiful grandchildren to spoil, she said, making Issei choke with the food while Rias blushed. Issei? Aka-san, he said to his mother, we are still too young for that. Boru? Still, he said mischievously, so you have already planned to have children, he spoke with a Cheshire cat smile, embarrassing his son and girlfriend even more, seeing that Asia made the biggest pout to see that Izumi. Izumi, you don't need to be jealous, Asia-chan, you know that Issei is too, he said half-heartedly so that her son covered his mouth with her hands. Issei? Ako-san, that's it, he said, red as a tomato, intriguing his girlfriend in Asia, trying to find out why she covered his mouth. There he is. By the way, Akasama, we can have a club meeting at home, I asked Izumi, who only nodded. I say. Rias, why are we having the meeting here and not at the club? Rias? The building will receive its annual cleaning, so we will not be able to use it until tomorrow. Asia, a meeting at home, that sounds exciting, but you, San, if you don't mind, I'll prepare tea for you, he said to Ria with emotion. Rias? Of course, I'm counting on you, Asia, he told her with a grateful smile. Scene change? Streets of Qua, they say. How did this end like this? He asked himself, looking at his arms, where in the right one was Rias hugging his arm possessively, and in the left one was Asia, who was blushing, with her arm intertwined with Issei's, being seen by all the students on the way to the academy, where the males looked at him with hatred, jealousy and envy, and the females looked in the same way as the males at Rias and Asia, to which Issei alone sighed in defeat as they arrived. To the academy this day could not get any worse, he said in his head, not knowing that even worse things would happen. Time skip. After school, Issei's room, Rias. Then let's start with the routine meeting, he said. While having a cup of tea this month, we have had 11 contracts for Okino. By Kino. Hi, Rias. 10 for Kaneko. Kaneko. Hi. Rias, 10 too. Hi. Rias. Asia 3 contracts. Asia. Hi, Rias? Well done, Asia-san. By Kino? Era, not bad, Asia, he said with his usual smile. Paniko? Not bad for a rookie, he said monotonously. Asia? Thank you all very much, he said happily. Rias, and for Issei, he said while taking a sip of the T6 contracts, and with very good reviews. Rias spoke so that Issei would smile like his brother Goku. Yumi? The encounter with the ship seems to have gone well for you, Ice-kun. Yumi spoke. Aikino. I agree, although I will miss your perversion, she said, so that a green glow came out of her left hand. Greg. He still has that perversion, but he saves it for bed with his girlfriend, he said, making everyone except Kaneko and Issei. DDRAIG, you were watching, he shouted at the dragon sealed in his left arm to hear a collective laugh. Greg. Not only me, but also the bijus, he said, making a vein appear on Issei's temple. And in addition to the fact that we recorded it, here is a sample of what these two did, he said, so that one green light came out of her hand, revealing an image where Issei was bucking Rias in the bow girl position, riding Issei's henna's hard. Gee, Issei. Rias, you are very tight, said Issei from the recording, while he felt the folds of his lover. Gee, Rias? You are very big eyes, I feel like you are going to split me in two, he said while a thread of saliva ran down the corner of his mouth, so that then the image stopped and the shine disappeared, leaving everyone present blushing. For different reasons, Rias and Issei for watching that embarrassing video of them, Aikino from the excitement of seeing her best friend Saiyan, who was very well endowed, and Echo for seeing such an indecent act. Yumi and Asia had fainted from a nosebleed, seeing that image that was etched in their head. Issei, Drake, you and I will have a talk about recording my private moments, he said quietly to his left hand, so that his mother opened the door, revealing that she had a tray with rice crackers. Izumi. Hello everyone, she said with her eyes closed and a smile to open them and see the two unconscious blondes with blood coming out of her nose. What happened to them? Asked Issei. I explained something to them that they misunderstood and they fainted, he said, avoiding the topic. Izumi? Well, I think I know how to wake them up, he said, leaving the tray on the floor to show in his hands a photo album, which immediately made Issei blush because of the idea his mother had. Issei? Please, O Kaizen, don't teach them that, I implore his mother, who only had an evil smile. Rias, what is that, Aku-sama? He said, pointing to the albums. Izumi. These are photos of my Sochi's childhood, she said, so that, by magic, Yumi and Asia woke up from fainting and stood next to Izumi. Issei. Why me? She thought, crying cascades of tears. Scene change. Quit church. In the church where Asia died and revived as a demon, two people were seen, covered by a white cloak, where one was carrying an object covered in bandages tied to his back. What happened here? Said the hooded woman without the object. Pew. From what they told me, here a fallen woman faced a demon, her companion answered. But this place is protected by God, how did they get in here? She said, taking off her hood, revealing a woman in her teens, with brown eyes and blue hair, which had a green strand on her forehead. It must be that this place no longer receives the grace of our Lord, so the demons were able to enter Seti's companion, who also removed his hood, revealing a teenage girl, with light brown hair tied up and two pigtails and violet eyes. Q. Now that I remember, you were born in this city, right? True, I hope my childhood friend still remembers me, he said, taking a photo where Issei was as a child, next to another boy with light brown hair, playing her console, looking at it with a nostalgic smile. At the same time at Issei's house, Izumi, and this was when she was in elementary school, she said, pointing to a photo of a little Issei drinking a bottle of milk without any clothes. Akino. Era, he is naked, she said with her smile, Izumi. And this was when she was in kindergarten. At that time she was already thinking about girls, Issei's mother said wistfully, while Kaneko looked at another album. Kaneko? The naked and fresh past of Issei-senpai. I speak without emotion, but with a smile. Issei? Don't look at Kaneko-chan, said the embarrassed one. Yumi? I see you in, she said, drawing the attention of the young scion. Do you remember this photo, she said, pointing to the same photo where the child was, next to another child with light brown hair and violet eyes. Bess. Not much, really. He was a neighbor with whom I always played. He was my first friend, but he went abroad for his parents' work. You mean? I see, she said, very seriously. Coincidences really exist. She talks to herself looking at the sword in the photo. I see. Yumi? He thought, worried about his friend's look. Time skip. Night. Abandoned warehouse. I see. Is this the place? I asked, looking at the abandoned warehouse. Kaneko. There is no doubt. I smell blood from here, said Kaneko. Akino. We received the order from the Archduke to kill him. There he is. It means it's dangerous, right? She said with a confident smile. I wouldn't like to be at a disadvantage, so Asia stay back. Asia? Understood. Rias. Akino and I will wait outside, while Kaneko, Yumi and Ice take him out of the place. Akino? Hi Buchu. Kaneko? Hi, I say. I would prefer to go in and fight the demon alone, but hey, that's never what we want, he said. Boosted gear shout to materialize his sacred gear in a green glow. While Yumi he was staring blankly as if she was thinking about something. Where he is? Yumi? I asked his servant with concern. Yumi? Oh. She said understood, but Yumi spoke, returning to reality. I say. My blood is roaring with excitement. Come on, Kaneko-chan. Yumi-san, he spoke with emotion, to be followed by her comrades in arms, while Rias stared at her servant seriously. Approaching the entrance to the warehouse, Issei stood in front of the door. Issei. I wonder what the stray demon is like? He said to himself. Anyway, he said to retract his fist to hit the door, separating it from the hinge by the force of the blow. Stay alert. You don't know where they can attack, Kaneko. Hi senpai, he said to follow the black-haired man into the place with Yumi. Upon entering they could see that the place was completely destroyed in such a way that there were many places to hide. Basie, it's there, he said, pointing in front of them, where behind a metal pipe, there was a woman with bluish-white hair and purple eyes, who, upon being seen, turned into a humanoid spider, which with one jump attached itself to wall. Kaneko? Yumi-senpai, he said to his senpai, who was distracted again. Yumi-senpai, I caught her attention, making her react where the spider demon launched a spider web from her abdomen, which hit Kaneko's arm, dissolving the sleeve and part of the chest of the shirt, while she grimaced in pain. Issei? Kaneko, he said, looking at his cowhide holding her arm. You will pay for that, he said with great anger. Greg. Boost. Boost said of the Red Emperor from the gem, generating a powerful red energy to surround his fist explosion. But before the Saiyan launched his attack, the stray demon launched himself towards Yumi, who was gone again, so he reacted late to her enemy, who caught her. Issei. Yumi, he shouted with concern at this change of events. Take this, Dragon Ray, he shouted, launching a flow of red energy that hit the Spider-Woman, pushing her towards a wall of the building, passing through it due to the attack force just at the foot of Rias and Akino. Rias? Akino, if you're so kind, he said to his friend, who was next to him. Akino. Hi, but you, she said, generating a yellow magic circle, which shot lightning at the demon, leaving her toasted and smoking. Rias? A creature that disobeys its master to satisfy its own ambitions, he said, approaching the grilled spider. Such as sin requires an appropriate punishment in the name of the Gremory clan. I will be the one to execute it. He finished the dialogue to materialize in his hands a burst of power of destruction, which disintegrated the demon without even leaving ashes. Issei, along with Yumi and Kaneko, left the warehouse, seeing how the demon was disintegrated. Issei. Is it over yet? He said with disappointment. If it was even a threat to me, Aikino. Not all of us have as much power as your Ice-kun, said the vice president as she came down from the sky. She had completely lost her sense of reason. She was no longer even a demon. She was more of an uncontrolled beast. Don't you think? She said, asked the black-haired man, who only nodded. Issei. She looked like an Isaru great ape without control, said the Kaneko. Azaru? Kaneko asked Issei. Issei. I'll explain it later. First you have to heal yourself, he said, seeing Asia coming in her direction. Asia, can you heal her? She asked Rias Bishop. Asia? Understood, answered the Saiyan, so that a green glow appeared around Kaniko's wound. Kaniko? Excuse me, he said as the wound faded. Plop. Everyone turned their heads to see that Rias had slapped Yumi. Rias? Has that finally woke you up? I asked the gentleman about him. One wrong step and someone would have died. Rias? I'm sorry, but you. Rias? What's wrong, Yumi? I asked her with concern. She had never seen you this way. Rias? This has not been my best day. It will be better for everyone if I retire for now, he said, making an apologetic bow towards his king. Here he is. Yumi? I speak into the air with sadness and concern. Before he left the place, Issei appeared behind her, grabbing her shoulder. Issei? Yumi-chan, what's wrong with you? I ask. I'm worried you act strange. You would never say that to Rias. Yumi? It's none of your business what happens to me, Issei. I'm worried about you, Yumi, he exclaimed with determination to Yumi, who had her eyes covered by her hair. Yumi? Worried? She said sarcastically. Because of me? Demons are naturally selfish beings, you know? I see. What are you saying? I asked him, confused. Yumi? Well, I don't think I was 100% today, see you, she said, walking outside the building. I see. Yumi, you are my friend. You can count on me in your times of need, said the Yumi? Friends, she said nostalgically. You know, Ice-kun, you just made me remember the reason why I am alive, she spoke, turning to see the Saiyan, who had a face of confusion. Issei? Your reason, Yumi? Yes, she said, still with a smile, which was not one of happiness. I live with only one purpose, to destroy the sacred sword Excalibur. She finished speaking to leave the place. Scene change. Streets of Kwa. Just after everyone left the warehouse, it started to rain. Yumi had a serious look. Memory, Issei. Yumi, you are my friend. You can count on me in your times of need. End of memory, Yumi. I'm sorry, Ice-kun, but I can't enjoy being with friends. I'm not worthy of such a thing, she thought, whereas she passed near an alley. A man who looked like a priest came out. Priest, itch help me, said the man to fall to the ground lifeless. Yumi. A priest. I asked into the air. Q. Hey, said a voice, and when Yumi looked up, she saw a familiar face. Yahoo, said the man to swing a sword above his head. How long, right? Shitty demon princess, he said, looking at Yumi with arrogance. Yumi? Freed Selzen, he said, changing her look to one of anger. Were you still wandering around the city? Freed? You remember me, she said in a childish voice. I can't hold back the tears of emotion at this reunion, Yumi. Unfortunately, I don't have time for your jokes, so I'll kill you right now, Yumi spoke, materializing a sword from a red magic circle. Freed. He laughed madly. That's good to hear from you. I was getting bored of killing priests, he spoke, moving the sword in circles above his head, while the sword emitted a golden aura which gave off sacred energy. Yumi? That shine, that aura, said Static. Don't tell me that. Freed? You guessed it, he said childishly, and as a reward I will slice you into pieces with my new sword. Excalibur, he spoke with a crazy look to the last thing he said, making Yumi increase her anger. Upon seeing that sword, so that the two swordsmen clashed with their swords against that of their rival, Yumi, holy eraser, I shouted, so that, from the blade of her sword, some ropes of dark energy came out, which were coiled with Freed's sword, which only shined so that the ropes dissolved in the air. Freed? TCH, 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 TCH. He clicked his tongue so that with his left index finger, he denied that little trick of yours will no longer work with my Excalibur-chan, Yumi? It was just a test. I wanted to see if it was real, because now I won't stop at breaking that sword of yours, he said to clash swords again. Clink, 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 clink. Freed. Ah, help, help, he said as if it were a game, so that in Yumi's carelessness, Freed made a cut on his right arm, making him kneel in pain. Oh, I forgot to tell you something. That sword is made for the purpose of exterminating shitty demons. Did you know that? Yumi? I know, she said to sweep Freed's legs, and he fell to the ground on his ass. Freed? Hey, that's cheating, Yumi. I'm a demon, remember? He explained to the psychopathic albino, making a downward slash that Freed managed to evade, where a green communication circle appeared in his left ear. Fried. Are you? Yumi attacked him with a lunge, which he avoided by jumping up. Fried. Don't you know that it is rude to interrupt other people's conversations? He reproached Yumi. Unfortunately, our duel has to be postponed, he said, taking out a marble from his robe. Jana, he told him, throwing the marble to the ground, which generated a blinding light that allowed him to escape. Yumi stood still looking at the dead priest with a blank look so that painful memories would appear again in her memory. Yumi, I will never forgive Excalibur, she thought with hatred. Issei's mother, Issei's father, thanks for listening to my video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and comment below your favorite part. Sayonara, see you in the next video.